All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything new audio. Okay. All right. Bad today, judging by my headphones. But good to see y'all here. Thanks for hanging out. We're live on Rockfin, YouTube, and on Callin. Please hold the calls until the last show. You can support the show at buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews. You can also support by tipping on Rockfin. You can support by tipping on YouTube. You can support at any or all of the links. You can support on Patreon at Black Bear News. You can support at any and all of the links in the description box of my channel. Hope you all enjoyed the show yesterday. I think the discussions were pretty good. Last couple days. Crackling. No. Hold on. Check. All right. Yeah, cars love capitalism. Yes. We've been talking about the problems with solutions and the problems with the whole thing, I guess. I don't necessarily envy anybody who's trying to develop and or finance and or put forward solutions to climate change. That's an unenviable position in. People understand that there are some problems. That there are a lot of bad answers and we were talking about Peter Dines and his solution yesterday, and and I don't doubt that the people that are presenting solutions or funding them, working on them, or involved in the development of them don't have their heart in the right place. I don't doubt that at all. And again, an unenviable position to be in because so many of them are problematic. It was cool of Peter to send me the list. I'm coming in and out. I don't know. Is that true? Does anybody else hear that? Or is that a local? It was cool of Peter to send me the list. However, I think people automatically hack half the answers off that list right away. Whereas a no. So I don't, which puts you back at the point of like, well, what's an answer? What's a good answer? What's the best answer? What's what's an answer that's effective as it is productive? I don't know. But it's an interesting, don't lie. I don't know. I mean, it actually, the audio sounds extremely clear to me in my headphones. So I can hear what it sounds like, or what I sound like going over the. Is it cutting in and out? I don't know. I don't hear it cutting in and out. So it could be there are so many things, on the way to getting to you, which is StreamYard, YouTube, my USB connection, your internet, your phone, your connection. I mean, they're just um there are a lot of things that are a lot of things that are on the way. It's not necessarily always the fault of me or my audio equipment. I sound nice and clear to me. So I think if you're having issues, it's on your end or something. I'm just suggesting that it might not be my issue. Doing my best here, guys. All right. And I can hear if there's something going on with my audio. I generally can hear it, except for the crackle part. I can't hear the crackle. I can't hear the crackle. When you guys hear the crackle, I cannot hear it. So I need y'all to tell me if there's crackle. All right. Speaking of capital, I've always been interested in I'm not paying the cable bill until they get it right. Yeah. This idea that big capital, Globocap, funded all the communist movements and Hitler, and that's right. It's becoming apparent, or it's actually there's documents to actually support the idea that the industrialists and the capitalists were funding the so-called communists or the so-called opposition, right? For so many reasons. And that's why I propose to you, though, when people say socialism or communism is bad, well, if that socialism, if your example of socialism or communism was funded by capitalists, well, then it ain't communism. It's fascism, right? Wearing a communist suit, and so it just these words, you got to be very precise. When you say, "Oh, the socialism is bad" or "the communism is bad," well, if your example of communism is authoritarian capitalism, then you don't know what communism means. So don't use the word that way. Don't label, communism as the bad thing or the ultimate form of total control. No, that's not it. That's fascism. That's fascism controlled by capitalism. That's the meaning of fascism. Nazis weren't socialists. They were fascists. If the Rockefellers funded Stalin, then he ain't a communist. He's a fascist. So it's just like, you got to, when you're listening to people tell you these things about the communism or the socialism, you actually have to, and you actually take their word for it. Oh, that Rockefellers or somebody funded Mao or Stalin or Hitler. Well, then you're not talking about communism or socialism. You're talking about capitalism. You're talking about fascism. You're talking about corruption. You're talking about total control by capital, right? Oceanic Estate is on a roll talking about capital, right? So if we had a true example of communism or socialism or something that pushed out the capitalism, pushed out these forces of evil, or at least tried to hold them at bay, well, then you would have something that was, would greater serve the people. But it's an interesting it's an interesting little mind trick, right? It's a Jedi mind trick. So, I'm just, I know I'm just on a random rant, but I want you to think about. I listen to talk about, you know, the you know the mustache twirlers and the evildoers, right? And yeah, all that information is all very pertinent and all very good, and that's why I'm interested in hearing about it. But if you follow the logic line, it's like, you know, Rockefeller funded communism or socialism, the opposition, and also, the Federal Reserve and also the central bank, and like capitalism is funding, right, these oligarchs, these super hyper capitalists are out there funding the opposition and funding the that's why communism is bad and we need a free market. Do you understand? Do you hear the logic line that people are trying to present to you? You don't understand what you're talking about, right? If you're saying like, well, free market is going to be the answer.
Unknown caller.
And that caller shall remain unknown. Obsolete Optics says if you have socialism without capitalism, it becomes communism. Okay. If you have capitalism without socialism, it becomes fascism. I get the last part. I don't know if I get the first part. But anyways, really, ultimately, the only thing you're talking about is fascism, and fascism is what ultimate corporate or capitalist control of everything, right? But the free market is good and socialism is bad and communism is bad. I mean, there are a lot of Jedi mind tricks going on out there, right? Because there's capitalists telling you that, oh, we're doing this for the good of the people. We're just trying to help you out. But the ultimate goal is to create, a better milieu, if you will, for the capitalists to do the things. Oceanic Estate says it's all one big Ponzi and you are not in it. But I just, I'm just trying to understand the logic line. I think I understand it, but I don't think I think the conclusion is faulty. And the ultimate message is a little bit, it's a little, I don't know what. It's a little pretzel-y. Did you guys know that the CDC actually, and this is surprising to me, or not surprising, or there are some people that are suggesting that what happened in Palestine is intentional, or and there are so many ways to look at it, as ultimately what, probably something that capitalism run amok, or fascism, the fascism that we have, the fascism next door, the fascism in your backyard is creating a problem called, well, the corporations don't want to care about your safety. They just want to make money. They don't want to be impinged or hindered by regulation. So they get rid of it all, and you end up with this, crazy disaster. That's one way to look at it. And some people actually suggest that maybe this was intentional. And I actually, I'm open to all the ideas. But it is weird that the CDC changed toxicity info on vinyl chloride days before the derailment. I mean, they edited the toxicology profile for vinyl chloride, massively increasing the lethal exposure level and removing information about how the chemical affects children just 2 weeks before the train derailment. Again, could be a coincidence, but it does seem a little bit And the idea that they're rolling out a My ID emergency service to surveil biometrics 1 week before the Ohio train. So you have this thing happening 2 weeks before and another thing happening 1 week before, kind of almost seeming like they're anticipating something happening. And then something happens. And, that's when the coincidences start to stack up a little bit. And you start going, well, why would they do that? I still don't get it. I still don't get the ultimate goal of it, to poison people in the land and everything. Like, if you want to poison, poisoning people doesn't seem that far out of the realm of what these people are into. But, like, poisoning the land and poisoning things forever, and actually just having an uncontrolled spewing of toxic chemicals all over, into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere, onto the, way outside of the region, right? It's not just regional. I mean, this is going everywhere. Why would you do that? Because ultimately, wouldn't that come back to hurt you on some level? Wouldn't that get into your food? Wouldn't that, reach your apartment in New York City? Wouldn't that, reach your acid rain falling onto you? Why would you do this? And not think that it wouldn't be, and not know that it wouldn't be contained to a region. So it still goes back to just, it's a really dumb plan, or it's just negligence, or it's just, I don't know. Or these are some hella coincidences that have all lined up. I don't know. It's interesting, though, right? It's interesting that these things are happening. So I'm just pointing this out so that y'all know. If you don't know already, many of you already know. DB Cooper 3 says, my dad was patent security, made it to the Elbe River, let Russia take Berlin. My dad survived the Battle of Falaise Pocket. He witnessed over 10,000 men get slaughtered over 4 months. Jesus. The stench was so bad, Eisenhower closed 2 years. Yeah, Denver says the CDC changed its toxicity profile of vinyl chloride in January 2023 from 100 parts per million to 10,000 parts per million. Something like that. It was either 1,000 or 10,000, but they upped it considerably by, it's either 10 times or 100 times. But why would you do that? You guys got some good World War II information for me. Patton said before he was murdered that the USA had defeated the wrong enemy. That then he died in a car wreck and his driver was sick or had the day off. Probably just a coincidence. Of course. Anyways, these are interesting things that are going on. Here's another story that I think is interesting is that, one Republican congressperson has proposed a bill to get us out of Syria, which I thought we didn't really get out of there, right? Trump tried to get us out of Syria, and then basically the military-industrial complex said, no. Do you think this has any legs? I don't know. And they never, is he really far right? They never, pass up a chance to call him far right. Yeah, he's far right. If the Democrats are definitely super right wing, and if you're a Republican, I guess everyone's far right. The Democrats are super far right compared to other, supposed lefties in the world. So I suppose, but they never pass up a chance to call anybody who's a Republican and especially anybody who's going against the neoliberal joint joint program, whatever that, you know what I mean, which is just do the imperialism. Well, then of course you're a wackadoo. Anyways, Matt Gaetz is calling for an end to the U.S. military mission in Syria after 4 troops and a working dog were injured during a raid to take out a senior ISIS figure last week. Anyways, he says the true words, and I don't know why, more people aren't saying this. Where's all the lefties? Where's Bernie Sanders? Trump bombed Syria. Well, yeah, he did bomb Syria, but he also did want to get out of Syria. One of the reasons why he bombed Syria was because he said, you know what, I think I want to get out of Syria. And then there was that chemical attack in Syria, right? And he had to respond because, everyone around him was like, you got to do something, man. And he had to respond, in a way that made him seem presidential. That's the backstory to him bombing Syria. By the way. Anyways, he says the true words, which is Congress has never authorized the use of military force in Syria. And that goes for so many other conflicts that we've been involved in. We never authorized it. We're just doing it. But that's not how it's supposed to work. Congress is always supposed to authorize it. Always. The United States is currently not at war with or against Syria, so why are we conducting dangerous military operations? Blah, blah, blah. By invoking the War Powers Act in his legislation, Gaetz has effectively forced Congress to take up a vote on the matter by mid-March. I think this was part of the concessions that Republicans got from Kevin McCarthy. Right? In approving him, they held him up trying to get concessions. One of the concessions was, being able to put forward legislation, and also one of the other concessions was a referendum on whether we should decrease military spending. Like that is wild. That's a wild idea, right? Not that wild. Actually, that's super logical and very common sense. And maybe we should do that once in a while instead of always increasing it year after year after year after year after year. Not that wild. Actually, the peace-loving lefties in the world should be all for this. But I don't see any of those peace-loving lefties in Congress going, we know what we should do is decrease the military budget. Nope. You know why? Because they're owned. Because they're owned, and they're not lefties, and they're not your friends, and they're not anybody that you should be supporting. Just my thoughts about it. If you think you're supporting lefty stuff, even climate change, with any lefties that are in Congress right now, anybody, Joe Biden or anybody in the administration, anybody, you ain't a lefty. You're confused. You are straight up confused. And I don't feel bad about calling people confused. You're fucking confused. Get it together. Get your mind right. Start paying attention. Start thinking about these things. This is important. Because the Biden administration is taking you is trying to take you on the brink of nuclear war. You moron. If it was Trump doing this, you'd probably be like, oh, yeah, he sucks. This sucks. Let's get out there and march for peace. But it's Biden doing it, and you're like, oh, I guess it's for a good reason. Because you're a moron. Only a moron would think stuff like that. Sorry for my harsh words, but you need to hear them. You need to hear them. Hold on one second. I just realized that's probably why my sound is so clear. Because I didn't have my computer plugged in. There's the buzz. All right. Anyways, that was a little bit of a rant. I'm sorry for being so harsh. But you have, Republicans doing anti-war things and saying, like, well, maybe we should think about what we're doing with all of our escapades in our military budget. I mean, these are completely progressive lefty ideas that nobody on the left seems to care about. Or maybe this is just great propaganda because, only far-right wackadoos think that we need peace or need to lower the military budget. So why would we ever consider that? That's crazy. It's it's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Peace, war, peace, war, peace, war, peace, war, peace, peace, right? The people that used to say peace were, and the red said war and the blue said peace, peace, war, peace, war, peace, war. And then the red said peace, and then the blue said war. Because they're about as smart as a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Bella says use a ground lift on the computer. Okay. I'll try. Nadia says the Republicans aren't being lefties. They just want war against their favorite enemies. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not. I'm just saying I'm not saying that they. I'm just saying that's a lefty idea, right? The fact that we should get out of. Yeah, I mean, sure, they're all like, China bad, Russia not so bad, or something. John Glad? Yes, he is, actually. He totally is. He was also vice president when we backed regime change in Ukraine. He was vice president. He was, what is it called? There's a certain title for it. He was like head of the Ukraine region. There's a word for it. I can't think of it. It's like commissar or something. He was in charge of that whole thing. Do you remember the really famous speech of Biden saying, well, we were going to give Ukraine $1 billion, but we needed them to fire this prosecutor. And son of a gun. We told them we weren't going to give them any money until they fired this prosecutor. Son of a gun. So, he's all up in that. Court jester. Anyways, I digress. South Africa's power grid is facing collapse. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. They announced like an emergency state of emergency because their power grid was collapsing, but it's ongoing and seems even worse. South Africa is on the verge of collapse amid rolling blackouts and warnings of a total power grid failure that could lead to mass rioting on the scale of a civil war. What? Western embassies, including the United States and Australia, have advised their citizens in the country to stock up on several days' worth of food and water and be on high alert during extended blackouts sweeping the country. I wonder, they won't say why this is happening, though, right? This is just like they're just having a lot of blackouts. Like, they're not saying, why are they having blackouts? Is it because they can't get fuel? Is it because of the repercussions of the war in Ukraine? Is it something else? What's going on? What's going on there? I wish that they would tell us more. I don't know. Hold on one second. Let's find out some more. Record electricity shortage, which has been the state-owned power company Eskom instituting rolling blackouts. Why? Why are they having shortages? Blackouts can also affect water availability, internet connectivity, mobile phone network coverage, fuel availability, residential security features, and food supply. For example, traffic jams due to power outages provide opportunities for smash and grab crime. I mean, they're saying the same thing that was said in one paragraph before. It's the new world order. New world. It's the new world order. That's, I'm trying to say it correctly. Oh. Coordinated attacks on water, power, and comms infrastructure? That's what's causing it? No. In a viral Twitter thread this week, a neighborhood watch volunteer with civil rights group AfriForum argued South Africa has collapsed. We're seeing an increase in coordinated attacks on water, power, and comms. Is that what's causing it? He added the cost of living was insane, with medical aid a luxury that most cannot afford, while food prices are going through the roof. Ah. Is it just straight up global economic meltdown? Is that what's causing it? Poppy Davis adding some more information. Aging coal-fired power stations that the dysfunctional state power company Eskom is struggling to keep online. Power cuts have been a part of life in South Africa for 16 years. That's what, and that's what I thought. Like, isn't that a thing that happens in South Africa or other African countries? Like, don't they have blackouts all the time? Aren't they used to stuff like this? Is this what is causing it to be a state? Is it just are teetering over the edge of affordability for anything? I mean, which is certainly likely. This is a weird.
Unknown caller.
Just stop it. This is a weird story because I'm I don't know. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying it's a weird story because they don't. Is it just because of inflation? I'm trying to figure out what is making this a situation where it's South Africa has collapsed. I don't know. They currently have an inflation rate of 6.9%. Oh, yeah, don't you believe it? And 32.9% unemployment. 32.9%. If that's what they're admitting to, because 6.9% inflation is not even, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Inflation here is like 40%. Straight up 40% since 2 years ago. So there ain't no 6% or 8%. That's ridiculous. So if it's 6.9% in South Africa, that's not real. 32.9% unemployment is insane. So yeah, that might cause some. The currency has plummeted close to levels last seen during the height of the pandemic in 2020 after the country was graylisted by a global anti-money laundering body. A global anti-money laundering body. What? Huh. The Financial Action Task Force graylisting indicates that to financial institutions that a country is not fully compliant with anti-money laundering and terrorist financing standards. Scott Andrews says, I'm guessing that collapse is occurring in many places and we're not just being informed. In Sri Lanka, I feel like this is something that happened last summer, but maybe it's still ongoing. But apparently they've burned down like 29 homes of the leaders in Sri Lanka. That's how mad people are there. That sounds pretty collapsy. Oh. What? Maybe the country is just collapsing into corruption? I don't know. Systemic corruption at Eskom. There we go. There we go. He said a rough estimate was that somewhere in the region of 1 billion rand, or $81 million, was stolen at Eskom every month. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So it's just people are just bilking the system, and that's why there's no money to run these power plants anymore. Okay. All right. The outgoing CEO detailed how the company faces systemic problem with sabotage. Sabotage. Understand that there are many hangers-on. So if there is a contractor who gets paid a pittance to do cleaning or whatever the case may be, to pay someone like that 5,000 rand or $400 to walk past a gearbox with a screwdriver and just with a sharp jab knock out the sight glass where you can check the oil level, the gearbox oil then drains and the gearbox fails, and then somebody who's got a maintenance contract is then called out. Oh. Uh-huh. All right. Corruption. Eskom run. Corruption. Yeah. Collapse corruption. Weimar levels of inflation, says Oceanic Estate. I mean, we're reaching that level of corruption. We're going to be there soon. We're going to be there soon with the way that everything is going. With the way that we respond to our own disasters in this country. We'll be there soon. Maybe the only thing that's keeping us in check is that the dollar is still strong. And might be the reason for all the interest rate hikes that they've been doing. Because, our debt is out of control. Our debt is wildly out of control. And if the dollar was still not as strong as it was on the world stage, if it was going in the opposite direction, things would be getting real tight. Real tight. I mean, not that they're not tight already. Oh my God, where did the time go? Nadia says the dollar will collapse pretty quickly with KSA joining BRICS and establishing the Petro Minbi Petro Yuan, right? Bella says cherries and dogwoods in bloom in February, 70 degrees, sun like a blowtorch. Yeah, you know, I apologize for being so strident earlier, for talking all that mess. I apologize for being so harsh, but for crying out loud, we're not in a good place. We are not in a good place. There's people out there, they're still okay, right? But we are not in a good place. And when you have large financial institutions, hinting over the last 6 months that we're about to enter something real bad. Well, then you take heed and take notice, and really try to understand what's going on, and try to understand who are the architects of this badness. It's not just it just happened. Oh, darn. It's not like, oh, oopsie, here we go again. No, there are architects. There are people in charge of this. There are people that are letting this happen. Or asleep at the wheel, or bilking the energy company out of $81 million a month, or deregulating your any and all of the last remaining safety measures you have in how you operate your company. Allowing trains to run off the tracks, allowing planes to fall out of the sky, allowing things to just sink into mayhem. Right? There are people who are in charge of this, or not in charge. So let's at least be educated, or try to. Randomly, not randomly, but apparently the Biden administration is doing away with SNAP benefits, right? Because the COVID is over. COVID is over. They're about to do away with all that stuff, and they're gonna, right when everybody is really super suffering from inflation and the food is so high and you can't afford it, they're gonna take away everybody's SNAP benefits. That sounds like a real lefty thing to do. That sounds like a real caring, compassionate, Democratic Party thing to do. Yeah. If Trump did that, people would be losing their minds. But if Biden does it, nobody pays attention. Nobody notices. It's fine. It's probably about time anyways. But if Trump did that, you'd lose your mind. If you're a, self-described Democrat. Get it together, Grouch. Are you aware SNAP benefits are being cut? Food stamps are being cut for 14 billion. Million, I think it's million. From all walks of life and political backgrounds. This affects the most vulnerable in our community. Lucky Burrito's been going hard on this, and that's a good thing. Let me see. They're trying to get people to call somebody, leave a comment. Let's see if we can go down here. So seriously, food is very expensive. Very expensive. So Lucky Burrito says, how is it that Donald Trump provided safety and security to the people via increased food stamps, health care, unemployment, and stimulus packages, but Joe Biden and the Democrats are giddy to take it all away from us. SNAP emergency allotments are ending this week. This week. Oh, I thought it was a little ways into the future. No, this right, like real soon. Millions of Americans. Well, so they haven't even ended the emergency, the pandemic. They haven't officially ended the pandemic. I think that's not until May, but they're going to end the SNAP benefits. So if anybody out there is relying on this, emergency allotments are ending this week. Millions of Americans will see their benefits dramatically decline starting next month. Many families will choose between food and rent. It doesn't have to be this way. And this is a post from Jim McGovern. You guys know that this is happening? Why don't you all go follow Lucky Burrito if you want to make a call? There's numbers right there on the screen. Hey, William, how you doing? William, you're on.
Yeah, I forgot to unmute. I was in the live chat. Uh, Kevin, I invited a friend, Cardinal. He's in the live chat.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, we both had OSHA certs, 40-hour HAZWOPers. So maybe Friday, I don't know if you want to do something. We can comment a little bit more on the East Palestine thing if you like.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, if you want to go there on that. Anyway, but he's got a lot of good info. So just scrolling down some of the stuff I put in your live chat addressing some of the issues. Well, I don't know, man. Is it controlled demolition? These oligarchs have been in charge since when? We know before the Bilderberg Group anyway, down to the World Economic Forum. I don't know. Have they been trying to make it right for the last 70 years or not? What do you think?
I mean, I think there was a time when the people in power felt a little bit of pressure from the people at large, right? The people at large got out there and really mucked things up. And we're not talking about no peaceful protests on a Saturday, right? There was a time when there were, boycotts and real demonstrations and real sit-ins and real, blockades of business as usual, to the point where the people in charge, were very worried that there was some, a possible, maybe revolution imminent, right? Or that maybe their positions of power were maybe threatened, right? And so they responded to these demands of the public by trying to implement some things that were, more people-minded, right?
Yeah.
And so, and those few, I don't know, not few, but those things that we used to think defined America as being like great, like a large middle class and people getting paid a living wage and people having access to education and food and healthcare, right? And having things like Social Security and Medicare and being a strong, robust, and industry and blah blah blah, right? All that stuff. Like that's been chipped away. And that is a controlled demolition for sure. That's been along what Chris Hedges calls, what do you call it, a slow moving. What's his phrase for it?
I like Chris Hedges. I'm not familiar with that phrase. I know he had this what's that, Final America tour? I forget what he calls it. I saw him talk about that.
Yeah.
He was talking about the belt, the steel belt, Pennsylvania, the East Coast,
Yeah.
and the manufacturing.
Yeah.
Well, the difference now is they don't need the American workers. They've outsourced all the, Asian free trade
Right.
agreements and TPP. So it is controlled demolition, I think, at least for the United States, and growth for the Asian
Right.
development. I mean,
Right. But I mean, that's been a long time in the
yeah,
making.
decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Shalal had some good comments too regarding this, in the live chat regarding the cycles of the sun, and some of the things you were talking about that's a little out of my wheelhouse, regarding some of the energy grid issues in Nigeria. I'm not, it's not my thing, but other than I know the oil companies have dumped on Nigeria just like they did the Ecuadorian issues, you know.
yeah.
But we see, one of the things is we had the EPA, the super fund, so they couldn't keep doing that here, which is, one of the reasons it's been outsourced. But of course, then there's fracking now that causes all kinds of groundwater problems and earthquake problems. But I just wanted to comment quickly because I know it's getting towards the end of the hour. And
It's all good.
some of the things I put in the chat, let's see, that I can run through real quick. East Palestine, the big issue, and there's some issues in reports in live chat. They're not testing for dioxin, Kev.
Right.
Dioxins.
Right.
They're at it. The government's attitude of, well, they were there before, so we, in other words, we can't be held accountable. The railroad industry, because the dioxins were there before. What? What about when you burn vinyl chloride, you get dioxin?
Right.
How about all the increases? I mean, isn't that relevant? Why don't they get a baseline, and then go from there? At least see what's happening. Maybe it's,
Yeah.
or measure the increase, and then, there's, holy smokes! Apparently, the dioxin, this TCDD, this form of dioxin for burning vinyl chloride, is the most toxic. And one fellow cites that one aspirin tablet of 325 milligrams would take a single aspirin tablet divided to 32 million, over 32 million minuscule pieces, and that would be your maximum dioxin per person. So one little 320, you see what I'm saying? 325 milligram aspirin would be maximum dioxin for over 32 million people, according to the report that I put I don't know where he got it from exactly, but that's give an idea how toxic this stuff is, and that they're not testing for it, which has got to drive those people crazy in East Palestine. I mean,
Yeah.
That's madness.
Yeah.
And not only that, it spreads, with the atmospheric winds. So it's got to come down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it accumulates in the food chain. This is the
Exactly.
biggest dioxin disaster
Right.
in American history, for sure. And you talked about Times Beach, right? You know how much that was only one little town, that a fragment of the amount of dioxin released.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's
Yeah. It
absolutely
doesn't. It's a little mind-boggling to me that is, whether it's intentional or unintentional or just happenstantial or negligence. It doesn't seem like that outcome is good for anybody, right? Not just the
Right.
people, not just the receivers, the immediate receivers of the poison, because that poison ends up everywhere, right? Like,
That's it.
the microplastics are everywhere, the dioxins are everywhere, the glyphosates are everywhere.
I know.
And you're not, I don't know. Really, do rich people somehow think that they're escaping it by the wealthy elites have some, far off farm or someplace they get their food? I don't believe that. And it doesn't really matter how far off it needs to be, or it is, even if that is true, because that stuff is everywhere. It's like lead, right?
Yeah.
Like lead was everywhere, right? That's how they came to find the problem with lead and leaded gasoline. It was that not because it was not because it was in localized concentrations, but because it was on the frickin' seafloor.
Right.
It was literally everywhere, all over the planet. And they were like, well, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this. And now, right, all the things that we're putting, into it's just, okay, sure, maybe, yeah, I don't, maybe we want to poison people directly in a localized way, meaning they. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, they, are really, they don't understand that this stuff gets everywhere for everyone eventually. That, I mean, even organic food isn't organic, right? When you buy organic, it's got some stuff in it that it's not supposed to have.
True.
So that in and of itself is kind of is somewhat misleading, right? You think you're buying organic. You're just paying double for something that's most likely as poisoned as anything else you would buy. And so it's not, I don't believe that the wealthy elites are, get all their food from frickin' Iceland or something, or someplace where there's absolutely no toxins whatsoever. No, because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Eventually, right? So why would you do that? Why would this end goal be? Why would this be? Why would it be intentional? But I don't. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe the people in charge are just so diabolically stupid and psychopathic that they just don't even. That they're just like, whatever,
Well, you got to wonder. They're pushing the GMO foods. They're pushing the toxic farming with the glyphosates. In other words, that's their profit model. You know what I mean? And
right.
You got Vandiva Shiva. What's her name?
Yes. Yeah.
Pushing back.
Right.
See on Russell Brand, but these people, I don't know. They're narcissistic. It's insane. There's no way to. It's that saying you can't bring sanity to an insane scenario and get sanity. You know what I mean? It's just you can't rationalize it because it's dealing with people who are, to most of us, seem absolutely diabolical. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
I guess, yeah, it's just really hard. Well, here's a truism of the way that psychopaths work and how, regular people. A lot, and this is probably why, to all my Democratic, quote unquote, Democratic friends and family and people I know, the reason why you can't understand that they're diabolically evil is because you're trying to project your own morals, right? Regular people with like a moral compass,
right,
project their own moral compass onto others, and so therefore they can't actually understand that somebody would operate that way. They don't understand that these people are diabolically bad. They are super bad people, and you can't give them any humanity, right? You cannot place your humanity on them and go, well, they're just trying their best. No, they're not. And there are actual psychopaths out in the world that you may come in contact with on a personal basis, and you have to start developing the skill to recognize that some people are psychopaths and they're not to be dealt with. They're not to be, you're not supposed to get, it's not your job to give them some humanity. Like you just have to cut them out of your life, and you just have to let them go, and you just have to like push them away, as far away from you as possible. That's how you deal with a psychopath. You don't, oh, well, they're, they didn't mean to. No, they're psychopaths. Meaning, I don't know. They don't operate like you and I. They might be a different type of human, that has to be dealt with appropriately. So it's, I don't know. It's hard. That's a hard one, right? Even people that study psychopaths and narcissists, it's like, they ask the question, are these people, well, yes, they're humans. Kind of. Or maybe they were human once and they just slipped so far, they're gone. They're so far gone now, So it's just, In the way that Joe Biden tried to describe, or way Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden tried to describe super predators, right? As people that were, maniacs on the streets. They're so far gone, you just got to lock them up. Well, no, that's you people.
Right.
That's that's you people who are in charge. You need to be locked up.
Yeah,
Oh.
I concur. The thing is that they rule the armies and the police forces, and that's until
Right.
we get a insurrection from within, like that. Because I don't know how else it's going to come. I mean, where the military and the police say, no more. I don't know if that can happen, but I really don't know how else it's going to happen. But I know you want to run. Let me touch on one more quick thing. Bring it to your attention anyway.
Okay.
The oral arguments on the motion to dismiss the Brooks Jackson versus Pfizer DOD case start tomorrow.
Okay.
So, you know the one I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. I got.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Good to know.
And you know what their premise is, or anybody in your audience, that Pfizer's not responsible because the government knew they were basically corrupt. So they're not responsible because the government was in on it. So it's literally the Jackson versus Pfizer DOD.
And it's all, right. Legal immunity because something emergency. Thanks for the call, William. I got to let you go, man. I got to get out of here. But thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. I know I went a little more political today.
Unknown caller.
Please stop calling me unknown callers, please. You'll never get my attention. I don't know. My thumbnail was actually about this story, but I don't have time to cover it right now. Mining aluminum for Ford F-150 Lightning. This is the electric version of the Ford F-150. Is allegedly making thousands in the Amazon rainforest sick. And there's a class action lawsuit about it. But we'll talk about it tomorrow, okay? I'll leave this over for tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out, and thanks for listening, and thanks for listening to my rants. And hopefully nobody was super offended, but I don't know. Some people got to be super offended sometime, right? I'm offended. There's that. All right. Appreciate you all. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks so much. 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until next time. Peace.